the surest way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
I have $69,000.
$350,000.
$60,000 worth of student loans.
I don't know how old I'll be when I pay that off.
I will be roughly 36.
In other countries, taxpayers foot most of the bill. Roughly 24 countries across the world provide free or almost free college to its citizens.
The 20 top selling drugs cost 3 times more in the United States than they do in Great Britain. Why?
Americans spend more on prescription drugs than anyone else in the world. Why?
So why do drug prices keep going up?
The USA is the only industrialized nation without universal health care coverage.
For 3 months, my drugs will cost me more than my rent. We're gonna have to choose between medication, rent.
My name is Wolf. I am a Danish citizen. That means I am from Denmark. I live in Copenhagen. We get free public health care. So if you get sick, you're basically taken care of from when you're born until the day you die.
Again this year, Denmark tops a United Nations poll as the happiest nation on earth. First, universal health care, free university education, and generous unemployment benefits.
How much are you in debt right now? I have 0 debt and I own my own apartment and I'm still in school.
What about the high levels of taxes that people have to pay?
If you ask Danes, are you happily paying their taxes? 9 out of 10 will say yes. What is more interesting is that the really high level of support for the high taxes.
54% of annual spending is on the military, which is more spent on the military than the next 7 nations combined. Be thinking, but what about Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act? By law, these programs are mandatory spending, which don't require Congress to approve funding every year. So if Trump and Republicans in Congress aren't going to cut these programs, they're going to cut this.
Tax reform. Tax reform.
Tax reform.
Tax reform.
We're going to have a phenomenal tax reform.
The drug companies just got a big tax break from the Republicans, and what did they do with it? So far, they've given more than $48 billion back to their shareholders. None of the top 10 drug companies said that it was planning to use the money to cut drug prices. One drug company made nearly $4 billion in profit in a single quarter.
We going for an additional tax cut, I understand?
The United States has a problem with income inequality.
The biggest threat to us as a nation is income inequality.
But one of the biggest drivers of inequality is hiding here. It's the U.S. tax code. President Trump and Republicans in Congress have a plan to alter that code.
Here is the actual distribution of wealth in America. 1% of America has 40% of all the nation's wealth.
Inequality in the USA is much higher than in any other developed country in the world. High inequality is bad for an economy. For an economy to function properly, you need consumers to buy the goods and services being produced, in which case the cycle breaks, money stops flowing, many businesses downsize or go bankrupt, and you get an economic crisis. It is perhaps no accident that the 2 biggest crises in American history, the Great Recession of 2008 and the Great Depression of 1929, were preceded by large increases in inequality.
Rather than working to reduce the growing gap between the richest Americans and everyone else, these new tax plans would make that gap even wider.
You came through for me. and I am going to come through for you.
Where nearly every country in the world agrees this is a huge problem and seem ready to commit to taking at least some kind of action.
74% of U.S. Senate Republicans publicly question the science of global warming.
My view is that we don't know what's causing climate change on this planet.
I don't buy the fact that it's a crisis. I just don't.
I do not believe that human activity is causing these dramatic changes to our climate the way these scientists are portraying it.
Satellite data demonstrate for the last 17 years, there's been zero warming, none whatsoever.
I think that there'll be little change here. It'll go up, it'll get a little cooler, it'll get a little warmer like it always has for millions of years. It'll get cooler, it'll get warmer. It's called weather. I think it's a big scam for a lot of people to make a lot of money.
2 million from coal mining companies, almost 4 million from natural gas pipeline companies, 18 million from electric utilities, over $30 million from oil and gas companies. Those were campaign contributions from the 2016 election.
The United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord. Thank you.
Our government spends $20 billion a year on subsidies to fossil fuel companies. We can't let money from PACs and companies and lobbyists dictate the future of our world. We can't let money from PACs, companies, and lobbyists dictate the future of our world.
Here is the answer. Nothing will change unless we have the guts to take on Wall Street, the insurance industry, the pharmaceutical industry, the military-industrial complex, and the fossil fuel industry. Every public college and university will be tuition free. When we stand together, there is nothing we cannot accomplish. Let's do it.
Over 52 cities across 25 states hosted similar marches.